Hi guys, I hope you people are doing well. So let's just start off discussing about additional practice questions on the APM. We have been doing these practice classes in which we have been discussing the different examination questions. And I'm hoping that these classes are being beneficial to all of you and that you are enjoying them. So as part of this session, like what I have also done is that I've also shared with you people the link to the Dropbox in which I have actually kept all the practice material. So now what I'll do is that I will now be moving forward. I'll be discussing another examination question and we will try to do that examination question also. Okay, I'd requested you people to attempt this question, the name of which was Sweet Sicely Company. I will just go on to this question and we'll see that what exactly do we need to do with this question. Sweet Sicely Company. Okay, now this is specific question. It says Sweet Sicely Company manufactures sweets and confectionery and has delivered stable but modest increases to uh, uh, shareholder wealth for many years. Following a change in the ownership, the new shareholders are keen to increase the long-term performance of the business and are prepared to accept a high level of risk to achieve this. ACCA considering setting up a factory to manufacture chocolate bars. There are three options, 1, 2, and 3 for the size and output capacity of the new chocolate factory. SC must choose a size most suited to the expected demand for its product. Now, what is actually happening is that there is a requirement. The requirement of the question is that it is now 1st of September 2005. It is now 1st of September 2005. Respond to the CEO of Sweet Sicely's request for work on the following areas: consideration of risk and uncertainty and the use of pest, option for the new factory preferred by the board and the new shareholders. Plus, what happens is that option for the new factory preferred by a risk neutral investor and the problems of the approach used. Now, can you just people read through this specific paragraph of the question so that I could then move forward and take things through? So can you read the exhibit 1 and exhibit 2 from here? Yeah, can you just read it, please? Okay, let's just start off. It says Sweet Sightly manufactures sweets and confectionery and has delivered stable but modest increases to shareholder wealth for many years. Now, what does it say? Following a change in the ownership, new shareholders are keen to increase the long term performance of the business and are prepared to accept a high level of risk to achieve this. Now, see, it's very important that you should actually note down the key pointers from any specific question. So, this is Sweet Sightly Company. What is the examiner saying? He is saying that new group of shareholders are there. They need higher returns. Uh, they need, they are willing to accept higher levels of risk. Now, what next is there? The next situation is it says SC is considering setting up a factory to manufacture chocolate bars. There are three options: chocolate bar manufacturing factory is under consideration. Three options to set up the factory are there. Now, what next is there? External factors. It says as well as the impact of the quality, branding, and pricing of its products. Demand for SC chocolate bars will be influenced by external factors such as consumer taste for chocolate over other sweets, and even the suggested health benefits of certain types of chocolates. So what happens is that as well as the impact of the quality and the branding. So amongst the external factors, what is actually happening is that they're considering one thing which is consumer taste, health benefits. A high cost ingredient in chocolate bars is cocoa, a commodity traded on international markets. Market price of the cocoa fluctuates with the worldwide demand. Market price of cocoa, the key component, fluctuates. Due to economic growth, chocolate consumption is rising in many countries. Consumption rising due to economic growth. Because ultimately all these pointers would help us with the pest also. Um, However, in some countries, however, the governments are considering introducing additional taxes on products containing sugar in order to reduce the consumption of chocolate and confectionery products. Governments of few countries considering to impose taxes being derived from an agricultural crop. Availability and price of cocoa is influenced by climatic conditions, soil erosion, and disease. Okay, external conditions like climate, soil, diseases, etc., etc. So if there is a disease that's actually spread with respect to the agriculture, that is also going to have an adverse impact. It says conflicts and political instability in cocoa growing regions can also restrict its availability. The regions, okay, the overall conditions, law and order, conditions of the regions where cocoa grows. That's also having an impact. Now it says recent technological advances in production of cocoa, such as use of genetically modified crops, promise higher yields from cocoa plants in the near future. The genetically modified seeds are used to get higher yields. Now, what next is there? The CEO has asked you to advise why decisions such as the way, what size of chocolate factory must be built must include the consideration of risk and uncertainty. and evaluate the use of pest analysis in managing the risk and uncertainty surrounding the project. So basically, what is the requirement of the question? The first requirement of the question is that the requirement number A of the question is that why decision making should include the impact of risk and uncertainty and evaluate how pest would help in decision making surrounding risk and uncertainty. Now, what I want you to be able to do is that whatever we have read through it, I want you to actually create an answer plan. Take 5 minutes, create an answer plan. Take 5 minutes, create an answer plan. Then we're going to start discussing. Yeah, just create a plan for the question. Okay, see what actually happens is that um, it's a it's a requirement which is of 12 marks, and this requirement requires you to discuss that why do you need to consider the risk and uncertainty, and plus the use of the pest analysis, that's what it requires you to do. Now let's just try to see that what are the pointers that we could just talk about this with respect to it. Now first of all, let's try to understand. See, the concept of um, incorporation, see, the risk and uncertainty, the outcomes that you plan could change. The outcomes could be altogether different. At times, at times you can do a reasonable prediction. At times, no reliable prediction could be made. Factors like demand for the product, availability of cocoa, prices of cocoa product, of cocoa, the taxes and other restrictions by the government, the law and order situation in different countries, the overall economic environment. These are all the factors that could have an impact on the outcome. It is always advisable to consider these factors so that the shareholders' expectations are considered and the decisions are made accordingly. So this is the factor with respect to risk and uncertainty that you would actually incorporate in this whole scenario. And this is something that you would be talking about, that look, these are the factors you got to consider. And if you don't consider, then that's a problem. Now, how pest would help, how pest would help, how pest would help in decision making surrounding risk and uncertainty, right? So this is also part and parcel of this. Just a second, please. Okay, now see. So the next situation is that how it could impact the decision making. Now see, what happens is that there are factors like the political factors, economic factor, the social factor, and the technological factor, right? So these are the different factors that actually need to be considered. Now let's just try to understand this. So if you could just look at this, the political factors that are there is the government policy with respect to the imposition of taxes on the chocolate products, the export and the import policies, the imposition of duties and other taxes impacting the movement. That's that's one aspect, right? Now, similarly, when we talk about the economic aspect, So the economic condition of the society plus spendings on the luxuries, as the chocolates are a luxury. This is not how you're going to answer the question. Obviously, you'd be elaborating. I'm just listing down pointers for your reference. With respect to the social factors, it's like health consciousness, could lead to reduction of reduction of demand for the products, could lead to demand for the products, could require some of the well performing products to be amended. So all these things could actually happen. Now lastly, there is this technological aspect, and the technological aspect is that with the advent of the GM seeds and high yields, it could happen that future cost of production would go down. So it could actually happen that the future cost of production would go down. These things could actually have an impact upon how the entity operates. So these are the factors that you would actually incorporate while writing down the answers, and this is something that you would have to say. Now it says option for the new factory preferred by the board and the new shareholders. Let's just see the exhibit number 3. Can you just give it a try, please? Can you just look at it? Yeah, is it done? Now it says SC will need to choose. SC will need to choose one of the three options. SC will need to choose one of the three options for the new chocolate factory. One board member said the board proposed expanding into cake manufacturing several years ago. With hindsight, our planning on that proposal was poor. We sold only very little fewer cakes than expected, but I didn't realize how sensitive our operating profit would be to a small change in demand. The previous shareholders thought problems in a cake business would put their dividends at risk, so SC stopped manufacturing the cakes. Barely a year after it started. The board does not want to repeat this mistake. We want to minimize the opportunity cost of making the wrong decision. See, what happens is that when we usually talk about the decision making under the risk and uncertainty, so usually what happens is that the techniques that you use is maximax, maximin, and minimax regret. So these are the techniques that you actually use. Now, if I talk about the maximax technique, what happens is that we try to maximize the maximum payoff. We opt for a strategy in which maximum return is achieved. This is a high risk strategy, right? High risk seeking strategy. Maximum is you maximize the minimum payoff. So a strategy which is more of a risk averse strategy, as minimum returns are identified first, and then on the basis of minimum returns, the maximum returns are chosen. So again, what happens is that this is gonna be a bit of a strategy which is going to be like this. Now, the third thing is that minimax regret strategy. When we talk about the regret concept, so what actually happens with respect to the regret is that, see, regret is the opportunity cost. Regret is the opportunity cost. Now I talk about the regret to be the opportunity cost. What do you mean by this? This actually means the loss due to a decision that is going to be considered as the opportunity cost. So generally what happens is that under this approach, the regret or the cost of a wrong decision is identified first. And on that basis, we decide the strategy that would minimize the maximum regret, right? So that's what we do. That's what we generally do. Current lag jayega. That's what we generally do, right? Now just try to understand this. So basically in this whole situation, what's happening? What's happening is that the examiner says that, look, we want to minimize the opportunity cost of making the wrong decision about the size of the new chocolate factory. That means if I'm going to talk about the directors, if I'm going to talk about the directors would want to go for minimax regret strategy because that would minimize the impact of the wrong decision. The wrong decision is actually a regret, right? That's going to minimize the wrong decision impact. Now, option appendix 1. Where is an appendix? The appendix 1 shows the net present values for the three options discounted at ACCA's current cost of capital and also includes a regret table showing the maximum regret for each option. CEO has asked you to use the data in appendix 1 to explain which three options for new chocolate would be preferred by board and the new shareholders according to their respective risk appetite. So basically directors, or you could say the board, they would opt for this. The shareholders are going to opt for what? The shareholders are going to opt for the maximax approach, as that's a risk seeking approach and their risk appetite is to maximize the risk, right? That's what it is going to be. Now let's just try to understand this. So if we look at this specific examination question, they've created a regret table also. So with respect to this director's decision, first of all, the minimum regret for each, the option 1, the option 2, and the option 3, right? You got to identify the minimum regrets for each one of them. So if you would look at option 1, negative 11 is the minimum regret. Sorry, a bit different. Maximum regret is what we need to identify. So maximum regret is negative 11 here. Maximum regret is negative 12 here. Maximum regret is negative 40 here. Hence, what would happen is that you got to minimize the maximum regret. So you'd probably be opting for this specific approach. You'd be probably be operating for this specific approach is that the option number 1 will minimize the maximum regret of our decision, right? That's what it is going to do. For the maximax, option 1, option 2, and then option 3. So if you're going to talk about it, now see what's going to happen now. With respect to this option number 1, you would say that there's this maximum, which is 6 million. 6 million. Option number 2, the maximum is 16 million. Option number 3, the maximum is 17 million. Now, so you would actually opt for option number 3 and it is actually going to maximize your maximum return. What is it going to do? It's going to maximize your maximum return. Now let's move on to the last one, which is the last part, which is option for the new factory preferred by risk neutral investor and the problems of the approach used. Appendix 2 shows expected operating profit margin by three options according to market price and assuming an annual demand of 70 million chocolate bars. It also shows the overall expected value of each option. Finally, the CEO has asked you to use the data in Appendix 2 to recommend which of the three options for the new factory risk of a neutral investor would choose and explain the problems so and so, so and so. Now let's just try to understand this. Let's just try to understand this. We have been given expected values of each option. The highest one is option number 3. Requirement C of the question. A risk neutral investor would prefer to go for the expected value technique. The expected value technique averages out all the outcomes on the basis of the probabilities. The expected value of the option 3 seems to be the highest, and hence, as per the risk neutral investor, they shall prefer to go for option 3. They shall prefer to go for option number 3. They shall prefer to go for option number 3. The average return on the option 3 is $2.1 million, and it is expected that this will arise. Now see the problems with this approach. What exactly are the problems with this approach? The problems with this approach is, one of the problems is that the averaging out, average return is on the basis of expected probabilities. The expected probabilities may not be a true reflection of the actual outcome. Of the actual outcome, right? Now what's going to happen is that the demand for the product is an estimate and it could change. So the average may not always be a reflection of the most likely outcomes that may arise. So this is something that you got to understand. This is something that you got to keep in mind. Are there any other pointers that you people would like to add in this? Yeah, are there any other pointers that you people would like to add up? Yes, there are problems with the other two approaches also, but has he asked for that? Has he asked for that? He has probably not asked for that, right? Okay. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining in today. We'll keep it till here. I may have an additional class tomorrow, although we are scheduled to have the class on Monday. But I'll just see that if I'm gonna do additional class tomorrow or not. I'll probably will be meeting up on Monday to take things forward. So thank you all for joining in. Thank you for your time. Inshallah. See you in the next session.